Hi, I'm a minute early, but I just wanted to be here and be ready. So I'll just be waiting for some people to come. Let me unmute myself. Hi, how are you? Thank you for joining me. I wonder if you have any questions you'd like me to answer from either the reading that I did on Sunday or any other general question about life. So this is a new experience for me. This is my first time doing this live stream with the question. It's easy to deal with when you've got something to do like the reading, but this live Q&A, I'm curious how that's going to work. And for anyone that can't, if you're on and you're watching, but you don't have the ability to message me from the device you're using, you could also text me at 907-351-3003, and I have that device right here, and I can take your questions that way as well. So we do have a few people joining us, and as I said, this is a Q&A, intended to be a Q&A session. So I'm hoping that someone will submit a question for me. I know I had a couple of people talk about the meditations that we ended with the last time. I was having a conversation with somebody about the question, what if there was nothing to be afraid of? What would I do if I had nothing to be afraid of? And I wonder if anybody has any feedback about that, or I'm here for you. So this is your time to make use of me and my resources and what I can share. And I would be happy to to talk to any of you or share anything. But so far, I don't see any questions coming in. I do see a few people watching, but and again, we are talking about walking through your walls, loving yourself and anyone and everyone else. This is part of humanity's handbook for living consciously in the 21st century. And I'm happy to entertain questions that would be beyond the scope of this volume even. If you have questions about something other than what we've read already. Come on, guys. Really. Well, I know one question that I was given the other day, and we didn't get into it and didn't have time to talk about, is how my pen name came to be about. So since nobody submitted a question, I'll go ahead and I'll use a little bit of this time to share that story with you. So I think I mentioned this the other day, from about the time so a question has come up. So I'll just finish this thought. About the time I was 13, I think was the first time someone said, oh, you need to write your life story. And then that became a real popular theme in my life. But let me answer this question. What am I most excited about in the future of humanity and the planet? I am really excited about what's happening on the planet and for humanity. We've been here a long time, but we've been very confused about why we're here. And it seems as if now on the planet, the energy is shifting towards a more introspective and inquisitive energy of, why am I here? And people are asking, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I here? And unlike in the past, there are lots of answers now available to people. And because of the technology, we can share these answers quite easily with each other. So I'm excited for our future. I think that humanity is going to remember, reawaken, rediscover our source and our origin and our purpose. I have another question. How do you help others discover their spiritual gifts? So this is something that's unique to each person. And a lot of times people know that they have spiritual gifts. A lot of times people are psychic, or they see things or hear things. They're clairvoyant. Sometimes there are people that are channeling and they're receiving information and they don't know what to do with it. That can be the signs of, your spiritual awakening, moving you to reconnect with your divinity. But I think where the help comes in is we have that going on, and at the same time, we're all pretty broken because we all have unprocessed traumas. And because as children, we're not raised and told that, you're in your divinity in form. You are an aspect of God in expression. Children aren't taught that. They're not taught that their bodies are the housing of their spirit and their soul. And so we grow up thinking that this three-dimensional world is real and finite. And then if we're having these spiritual encounters, they're hard to process and they're hard to understand because we're trying to do it through the filter of our brokenness, basically. So I find where help is most needed is in this process of healing our traumas from typically from our childhood. There can be all kinds of traumas that we experience as adults, and not to minimize them, but chances are that the traumas from your childhood are making the traumas from your adulthood harder to process. So we go back and we heal the child. We heal the inner child, the wounds. We heal the wounds. And I usually do that using some kind of compassion therapy and meditation. Sometimes just talking can do it. So I hope that answers the question. Let's see. Okay. It wasn't showing me the rest of that. Right, to their, okay, their life path. Okay. When we've gotten to a point where we've healed some of our traumas, our unhealed and unprocessed pains, it becomes much easier then to look at what's really happening here and be able to choose your response as opposed to having a reaction. So when you get to the point where you can be in the moment and choose your response, then at that point, what your life path is will start to make itself more clear to you. I hope that makes sense. So that's all the questions I've had so far. I'll go back to telling the story of my pen name, I guess. So when I sat down to write this book, I thought I was writing a completely different thing. I thought I was writing, the story of my life. And that's only interesting because of the synchronicities. My life is only interesting, I believe, because of what I call the invisible hand that moves the pieces around on the chessboard. And that's what makes it interesting as a story, is because my life is filled with these very bizarre synchronicities, this invisible hand moving things around. And I'll share with you the most stellar one that I can share. And that is that my biological father was not a part of my childhood. And thanks to Ancestry.com, I just like 2 years ago finally discovered my biological father and that whole side of my family. And I discovered I had a cousin living in New York City. So this January of 2020, and she had Parkinson's disease, and it was quite advanced. So January of 2020, I had to be on the East Coast for something else. I had to be in Myrtle Beach for a lodging conference. And so I made this trip where I got to go and visit my cousin, meet her for the first time. The synchronicity, this story isn't about that meeting, but the synchronicity is that the person who actually connected us on Facebook was her husband. And my biological father is from Lebanon. He's Lebanese, so I'm half Lebanese. And but my cousin's husband is from New York City. And actually, this is the part that it just freaks me out even when I go to say it. He and I went to elementary school. Now, that to me is just the strangest synchronicity of all. That her husband, whose name is Peter, and I went to elementary school together. And he's who discovered me on Ancestry and made the meeting happen, because nobody on that side of the family knew about me. So that's an example of that invisible hand. There are connections in our lives that we can't begin to figure out because it isn't our play, right? It's God's play that we're living in. So I do have another question has come in. How do I balance me time with others, so I'm not distracted by the dramas or needs of others, and thus avoid working on your own stuff? Okay, I think I understand the question. I think I understand the question. Me time. So I guess for me that comes fairly naturally. I spend time in meditation in the morning, and then I have a practice that keeps me fairly present. And I think that there is a difficulty. It's not so much, I wouldn't say a distraction, as it is an interference, because I am, if I hope that everyone is familiar with this word, but I'm going to call myself, I am an empath, right? So I pick up on the energies that are around me. In a one-to-one relationship, I have over the years really developed an ability to not take on what somebody else brings to the room. So, someone can walk into your house, or you can walk into a room. This happens probably to people quite often. It's a shared experience we've had where we arrive somewhere, and when we walk in, we can feel a tension or a palpable thickness in the air, something uncomfortable. And depending on what that setting is, you may or may not find out what caused that feeling to be. If it's family, you're going to find out probably because people will tell you. And then it becomes a matter of, or friends even, then it becomes a matter of not learning how not to take it on. And that it requires practice, because when I was younger, I could walk into a room like that, and I was more like a sponge. And all of a sudden, all the anxiety in the room ended up in me. And then I would have to go and clear it all back out again. So I've developed that skill over time of being able to not take it in, recognize it for what it is, but not allow it to interfere in my harmony. But what I discover for me as an empath is that I can pick up on the collective. And although it doesn't impact my individual harmony, I can be very aware of the unhappiness in the field. So, for example, the few nights before January 6th, for several nights leading up to January 6th, my dreams were filled with guns and knives and bombs and weapons of mass destruction. And I can honestly say I'm not aware of ever having dreamt those kinds of things before. So there was a lot of unhappiness in the field, or disruption, maybe is a better word, not necessarily unhappiness, because there was also a lot of happiness in the field as well. But there was a lot of noise, and anybody that's an empath at that level, it's very challenging to leave that out, right? To not carry that with you, especially when you're walking through it, because the field is everywhere. It's what we're living in, because although we haven't gotten to it in the book yet, everything that we see is an illusion. And so none of this stuff exists, even though it looks solid, and we think, and I'm sitting on a chair and the laptop's on a table. In essence, none of it really exists. It's all an illusion of form. And so in that sense, when there's disruption and noise and chaos in people's hearts and in their energetic fields individually, that's going to permeate the field that we're all residing in. And those of us that are sensitive will pick up on it. And although this hasn't been submitted as a question, it was a part of a conversation earlier, and so I think I'll touch on it now. That's something to realize. I was having a conversation with a group of people earlier today, and we were talking about youth suicides. And the numbers are not good, right? There are a lot of young people that are committing suicide, and it's a very sad and disruptive thing to hear about, to be aware of even, right? We don't want our children doing that. That's heartbreaking. But one of the reasons that they may be doing that is that the children that are coming into this world and have been now for the last, I don't know, couple of maybe 10 years, 20 years, they're very much more aware. Their hearts are much more open, and they're much more aware of the divinity of life, the all that is, the one great mind. They look at things completely differently. They look at things the way we looked at things when we were little and before we grew out of it, right? All children are intuitive and empathic when they're born because they're still a part of that web. And it's and we'll get into this later in one of the chapters in the book, but it's my belief and understanding from what I've been given that gravity actually plays a much bigger part in our lives in terms of our disconnection from our source than anyone is talking about or imagines. And I have had physicists laugh at me and make fun of me, and I don't care, because all that does is just, keep them from hearing the point. Because when you really understand my perception and experience of gravity, you'll look at the world in a completely different way, and it will open some possibilities up for you in your heart. And one of the things that I believe is that the youth, if they're choosing to leave, it's because their bodies are so connected to everything, and yet they're not getting the support from the people around them, not through any fault of the people around them, but if you're an advanced soul and you come here and there's nobody here that you can talk to and that can help explain what's happening, you're not going to want to stay here long. And so I think that a byproduct of these new awakened beings coming in is that they're not prepared for what they find here, and they leave. And I can say that with a fair amount of assuredness because I didn't want to come here. And the energy when I got here was more than I could handle. The energy of being inside my mother was horrible. I didn't enjoy that experience at all, not for 1 second. To the point where I said, all right, I'm going to grow a tumor and hide behind it because this is bad. And I did. I what did I know? I was just this little thing in there, like trying to figure out a way to save myself. So I grew this tumor and I hid behind it. And for quite a while, they couldn't hear my heartbeat. And I thought that was it. Like, oh, I'm safe. I hid myself. But no, they finally got me. And I had to come out, be born. I was born through a C-section. And I was miserable for much of my childhood. I didn't commit suicide, but I can't say it didn't cross my mind. So I have so much empathy for these young people who are choosing to not stay. And so my recommendation when we think about that is just to give love to the entire situation and perhaps envision them strong enough to overcome the challenge the next time they come. Right? Because I think If they're coming into form, they're coming in, there's something they're coming in to do. I don't think committing suicide and leaving was usually the answer. Some of them may be coming in to experience that, but probably life is overwhelming to them and they want to reset. They're going to go start again. And so hold them in your hearts and give them the strength. Just send them strength and power for them to overcome the challenge. That's the best way you can help them. Let's see. So I have a couple of other, no more questions. Let's see. Or maybe there's a new question. But a couple of people, 2 different Facebook users, or maybe the same Facebook user. Hi. It doesn't show your name. There is another question. How do you choose what to work on and what to let pass you by, especially if they all show up in your face? That's a great question. Those of you who have ever read Virginia Woolf will know the phrase stream of consciousness. And I tend to live in that space of stream of consciousness. So Virginia Woolf's writings, you can imagine, they kind of go everywhere. And when I was a kid, one of my chores was to dust. And I would get everything dusted in the room, or not even just dusting, but like cleaning a room. So you know all the things you have to do to clean the room. And once all those things are done, you're done. But what I would discover if I just let myself be as I cleaned the room is that I wouldn't necessarily do them in the specific order that they were taught to me at, because there's a flow and you can get into that flow. And so that's how I choose, is I allow life to show me what's most important to it. And I don't know how that works for other people. I only know how it works for me. And so, for example, the other day, I shared this story with a couple of people already. The other day, I was at the grocery store. I had 3 things. It wasn't the regular Thursday when we go and we get our senior discount. I had 3 things I was supposed to get. I went and I had those 3 things. And I should have just turned around and finished and left. And instead, I had the impulse to go to the deli counter. I didn't have anything on the list. I didn't intend to buy anything. Even as I'm walking to the deli counter, I'm not knowing why I'm going there, but I'm going there because the impulse is moving me there. And when I get there, what I discover is that the 2 people that I had to talk to about some items that have been out of stock for a while, and I'm really hoping they're going to get back in. The 2 people I needed to talk to about that were standing right there in front of the deli case when I got there. I didn't even know who they were, right? I didn't know they were the people until I got there and heard what they were saying. And I instantly knew, oh, these are the people I need to talk to. And so I talked to them. And it was perfect. So a lot of times, people look at things that happen in their lives and they think it's coincidence. But it's really not. It's that invisible hand. It's that invisible pull, that nudge, the calling, I'm going to turn left here. It's all the people that didn't go to work that day on 9/11 that work in that tower. And the stories of each of them are amazing. And you can tell from those stories that there was a purpose to what happened that day. There was a miracle that happened that day. The miracle was all the people that didn't die. That's the miracle. Because way more people, I think, didn't show up or didn't go or weren't there than did. And that's, that's life in action. We come here and we get so dense from gravity and from life and from the energy of people around us and from the fact that we're not grounded, which is something I just have been studying about. We're not grounded to the earth and the earth's energy. When we first started out as creatures here, we didn't have shoes, and we were very in touch with the physical planet upon which we live. And so between the density of gravity and all these other aspects of our life, plus all the electrical waves and the Wi-Fi waves and all these other things that are happening, we're very disconnected from the energy of source. And it really, that's what life is about at this point, is connecting everybody back up to their power, to their internal divinity, to what is really working here. That's what I'm here to help do. So if they all show up in my face at once, and if I'm in a place where, okay, I'm being bombarded and it's the stream of consciousness isn't working, I'm not in a flow, all of a sudden I've just gotten a whole bunch of, you got to do this, you got to do that, somebody needs you here, the phone's ringing, somebody's at the door. I take a moment and just breathe and ask. I go inside and I ask, what's calling to me? What's the thing that needs my attention right now? And I do that. And then I'll ask again if it's not clear. But as I said in the section I already read in the book, every answer is within you already. Everything you need to know about yourself and about anything else is actually already in you. We're trained to look out here because of the qualities of this third dimension that we live in. But the real trick is to learn how to look in here, because that's where all the answers are. And that's the only thing that's real. What gives me hope? How could you not have hope? Everything gives me hope. Life is hope. There's no, how do I say this? For me, hope is all there is. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, hope. Let me finish the thought on hope, and then I will do that. And actually, hope is a problematic word, because hope implies that there's something other than wonderful. And because I know that everything is divinity, I don't have hope, right? I have faith. I have faith. I have faith that there's nothing that happens that isn't without cause. I have faith that there's a positive reason that everything happens. We hear that saying, everything happens for a reason, and I really believe that. I believe in the invisible hand of divinity. I believe that this is all really a play It's God's play, and we're just here to play the role that we agreed to play before we got here. And some of us come in like the youth that are committing suicide, or anybody else that's committing suicide. Some of us come in and it's too much and it overwhelms us and we got to leave. And some of us leave by committing suicide, but a lot of people just leave by putting the script down and walking away from the play, right? A lot of people just don't know, forget. And when you forget and you go into a completely forgetful state, what's happened is you've allowed your housing to take over your life. You've allowed the body to rule what's going to happen to you. And so I call it putting the script down and walking out of the theater, right? We're all in this beautiful play. The play is to create heaven on earth. It's gone on a lot longer, I think, than we thought it would ever go, because so many people get here and the energies of the planet interfere with the energies of the beings, and we become forgetful and we forget why we're here. And then we go off and we just live an egoic physical life, get to the end of it, realize, oh, I didn't do what I came here to do. And we end up coming back. I don't have hope. I have faith. I have faith that everything is in divine order. And I have faith that we will one day get to this place that we call heaven on earth. I have faith that we will make the transition from living a non-loving physical life to a heart-based, non-physical life. I mean, our bodies are great. They're the vehicles that allow us to be here in form. I don't want to put them down in any way, shape, or form. And yet, they very much interfere with our abilities to experience life as we intended to. And so one of the biggest problems is we're not taught about our bodies. We're not taught that they're housing. And so that's part of what I'm here to do, is to help you understand that your housing is not who you are. And when your housing ceases to function, you don't cease to function either. Life is continuous. Your body is not continuous. You get another one if you want to come back. You've had others before this one. Okay, so let's see. So go back to the story of how I got my pen name. When I was a little kid, my mother was a very proper, raised with great manners, wore little hats with veils and little white gloves, and took me, as a 2-year-old, she took me to ladies' luncheons and expected me to behave like a lady. And she would always introduce me in a very formal way, and she would say my full name. And she would tell some story about something that I had done or said or whatever. And people always said the same thing. And what I heard them say, what I believed that they were saying was, oh, she's just like a little lamb without the bee. Like Mary had a little lamb, right? Well, my initials were L-A-M, Lynda Ann Martin. So I was a little lamb, L-A-M, without the B. And every time I heard them say that, didn't matter how old I was, I thought they were crazy. It's like, who are you talking about? Because I didn't resonate to being a lamb in any way, shape, or form. And it bothered me. It really bothered me. Then in the early 80s, I met a gentleman and I got married. And wouldn't you know that his last name started with a B? So if I had taken his last name and kept mine, all my names, which, back in the 70s or 80s, we were doing that, right? Hyphenating names, some people were changing names, picking new names, all kinds of things were going on with our names in terms of our marriages. If I had taken his name, I would have been that Lamb with the B, Lamb. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I don't resonate to it. I'm not that. I'm not a lamb. I'm nothing like a lamb. I just really always cringed when I heard people say that. So when we married, I dropped my maiden name and I just took his and I became a Lab. And I felt like that I could live with being a Lab. We ended up getting divorced. I went back to my maiden name. And then in 2001, I married a man whose last name begins with the letter P. It took me from 2001 to 2009 to come to the realization and the understanding and the knowing that, first of all, that's what people were saying when I was little. But I was little. I didn't know it. I knew Mary had a little lamb. You hear that story. But no one had ever told me about a lamp. There were no, children's stories about lamps, shining lights. But that's what they were saying. Because when I was little, all my stories were about where I had come from and how I had come here to do something special and to meet somebody. That was always my thing, right? I was born with those two things on the tips of my tongue. There's somebody I'm supposed to meet, and there's something I'm supposed to do. And the person I'm going to meet is going to help me do what I'm supposed to do. So when my book coach told me that I couldn't put my full name on the book cover because Lynda Ann Martin Paquette was too long, it won't fit. He said, you're going to have to drop one. And I said, I can't drop one because of this story, right? I'm a lamp. I have to have all 4 of those letters. And he said, well, then you're Lynda Lamp. And that's how it happened. That's how it happened. My book coach said, that's what you'll be. And when he said it, there was something, and I'm sure everybody's had this experience. You hear something or you see something and you have this knowingness that just like washes over you. It comes down from above and it just like all the hair will stand up on your body, or you'll have a wave of coldness or heat that's what happened when he said it. And I knew instantly, okay, that's what will be my pen name. So that's how my name came to be Lynda Lamp. I'm really Lynda Paquette. That's my legal name. But for my pen name, I'm Lynda Lamp. And that's what I am. I'm a light. I feel like monk. It's a blessing and a curse, right? It's not easy to be a light. It's especially not easy to be a light because quite often I see things that other people don't see or can't see. And sometimes they never can see them. And a lot of times I've been given information that I don't know what to do with. Like, why am I being given this? Because I don't know what to do with it. And I just have to accept it and say, well, I have it, and maybe someday it'll make sense to me why I was given it. So let's see. Are there any other questions? We've been at this for about 45 minutes. That's pretty impressive. I know I've got 2 people that have been hanging in. I see other people come and go, but I think I've got 2 people that have been hanging in the whole time. I appreciate that. And I just wonder if there's any other questions or if we should call this good for today. What do you think? Any feedback from the people still watching? I appreciate John, Shauna, and Lynda for being here, and for my Facebook users that said hello. Oh, thank you. I don't know how remarkable it is, but it's my story, so I don't know what more we can do with it. Well, folks, I think we should go ahead and wrap it up. If there's no other questions, thank you. I'm glad it was fun. It's been fun for me. I hope some of it's been helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Lynda, for that comment. Thank you for joining me. And this will be available for viewing after the fact in all these places. My page, my website, or not my website, but my author page on Facebook. It's also on We Love Us on Facebook. It's in the Love by Light group on Facebook, and also it's on my Lynda Lamp YouTube page. So thank you again. Thank you for that comment. I'm glad I look happy. I'm quite nervous, but that's okay. You have to do this stuff, right? All right, folks, I'm going to say goodbye for now. Thank you so much. And Sundays at 1 p.m. Alaska time, 5 p.m. Eastern time for continued reading of Walking Through Your Walls. And then we'll see you here next Tuesday for the Q&A. Thanks again. Bye-bye. Namaste. Much love.